All right, ready to go? All right, great. Well, good afternoon. I'm Michelle Conger. I'm the president for OSF Healthcare. On behalf of the over 25,000 mission partners employed by OSF Healthcare and our OSF sisters, I would like to welcome you here today to our ministry headquarters in downtown Peoria. It's a little sticky, but it's still beautiful. OSF Healthcare is excited to welcome you back to Peoria. Governor, the last time you visited, we had just opened our new Cancer Institute, and you had stopped by for a tour and to champion various insurance reforms that would ultimately receive strong bipartisan support in the General Assembly and result in improved access to care for patients across our state. Today, we welcome you back like before. You are here to take action to improve health care for Illinois residents. This time by signing HB 1697, the Prescription Drug Affordability Act, which will help reduce the cost of prescription drugs and ensure patients have access to the medications they greatly need. Over the years, OSF Healthcare has worked closely with the governor and his administration, as well as with the legislative leaders here with us today. We are excited to welcome all of you back today, and we look forward to continuing our work to improve healthcare delivery across the state of Illinois. And now please join me in welcoming Dave Baggett.
Good afternoon. Thanks for everybody for being here. Yep, I'm David Baggett, pharmacist, owner of Petersburg Pharmacy, and president of the Illinois Pharmacists Association. What an incredible thrill and honor it is to be here today to witness history in the making. We are here to celebrate the signing of HB 1697, the Prescription Drug Affordability Act, landmark legislation that will be studied and replicated across this great nation. This bill represents the most comprehensive reform of pharmacy benefit managers we have seen in Illinois. For far too long, these companies have used our nation's drug supply chain to benefit shareholders and executives while driving up costs for people who rely on medications and driving pharmacies out of business. Governor Pritzker, from the moment you boldly declared in your State of the State address that PBM reform was a legislative priority, pharmacists from coast to coast turned their eyes to Illinois. They watched as you demonstrated the kind of visionary leadership this country needs, the courage to take on powerful corporate interests that have rigged the system against working families and small businesses. Through the exceptional work of your policy and legislative teams, and in partnership with two legislative champions, Senator David Kaler and Representative Natalie Manley, you have achieved something truly remarkable. A bill that passed with overwhelming bipartisan support, receiving only one dissenting vote in each chamber. In today's polarized political climate, that kind of unity speaks to both the urgent need for this reform and your extraordinary ability to bring people together around solutions that matter. Governor, the pharmacists, pharmacy technicians, and pharmacy owners across Illinois know that this victory required the kind of political courage that defines quality leadership. You didn't take the easy path. You didn't bow to special interests. You stood with patients and providers against some of the most powerful corporations in our country, and you won. We all won. This is the kind of principled, effective leadership that gives us hope, not just for Illinois, but for what's possible when leaders have vision to see problems clearly and the courage to solve them decisively. While today's victory marks a turning point in the fight for fairness and accountability in the prescription drug sector of healthcare, the work to protect and expand pharmacy access must continue. Across Illinois, too many communities, especially in rural and urban underserved areas, remain at risk of losing the very pharmacies they rely on for care. This is why the pharmacy investment components of the Prescription Drug Affordability Act are so important. Governor, we thank you for recognizing that access to affordable medications depends on having trusted local pharmacies in our communities. Your commitment to securing dedicated support for pharmacies through this historic legislation is a critical step forward and a testament to your belief that healthcare must reach every neighborhood, not just those with the highest profit margins. We look forward to continuing this fight to ensure every Illinoisan has the pharmacy access they deserve. From all of us involved in the practice of pharmacy, Thank you, Governor Pritzker. And now, Governor Pritzker.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It is great to be back here in Peoria, great to be back here at OSF. Dave, thank you for being here and for sharing your story and the stories of so many small pharmacies all throughout the state of Illinois. Your voice, your experience, and of course those of other pharmacists and patients across the state have made possible what we're accomplishing today. OSF Healthcare is one of the great medical centers in the entire country. And I'm really grateful to your president, to Michelle Conger, and the team here at OSF for all that they do for the people of Illinois, for the people of Central Illinois, for their partnership in advocating for healthcare accessibility. Some of the most talented people in the country serve in our state government in Illinois. I want to particularly recognize two of those folks, Attorney General Kwame Raoul, who's been fighting the fight on health care and for all of us for many, many years, first as a state senator, now, of course, as our Attorney General, and our Department of Insurance Director, who used to be a state senator, but I stole her out of the state Senate because she's so good at this, and that's Ann Gillespie. And then just final notes of thanks go to the bipartisan group of legislators who worked together tirelessly to get these bills across the line, making things happen for the people of this state. Dave mentioned that this passed with overwhelming support on both sides of the aisle, and I think that should be recognized. I think in this moment when people feel like everything is divided and nobody talks to one another, the group of people behind me that are in the legislature and the folks who go to Springfield actually do talk to one another, especially when it's something important to the people of our state. So I want to recognize Leader Dave Kaler, Leader Dale Fowler, Representative Natalie Manley, Leader Jahan Gordon Booth, Leader Ryan Spain. Note I had leader before a whole bunch of people's names that you all elected and sent to Springfield on your behalf, and you should know how important that is to send people who really are leaders and who are respected by their colleagues. So please give all of them a round of applause. I am proud to be with all of them standing here today on behalf of, making healthcare better for the people of our state. For too long, our healthcare system has been infected by profit-seeking middlemen and predatory actors looking to make an extra dime at the expense of Illinois patients. Seniors have been forced to pay through the nose for life-saving medications. Families have had to delay or decline medically necessary treatments because they can't afford it anymore. And family businesses like independent pharmacies have had to shut their doors. Today, affordability is our watchword for the state of Illinois, and the laws that I'm about to enact are another step toward quality and affordability in healthcare and making it available to all. We're empowering the stakeholders that matter, and those are the patients and the providers. We're not here empowering the insurance companies who seem to have all the power. And it's our job to stand up for the people who really need us to stand up for them. We've expanded on the patients' rights that we established last year in the landmark Healthcare Protection Act. We've stopped insurance companies from denying access to mental health care by banning prior authorization for outpatient mental health care and partial hospitalization mental health care. That's on top of what we did last year where we banned prior authorization for emergency mental health care, which it shocked me was something that could be denied. I have a friend I just want to share with all of you whose daughter attempted to commit suicide. And he was in the ambulance on the way to the hospital with her when he realized that in order to check into the hospital, he needed to get prior authorization. So he's on the phone with the insurance company at midnight while his daughter is laying on a gurney in the ambulance, and they're denying him coverage. What are you going to do? You're a parent with your daughter in the ambulance. Are you going to go home? You can't. He happened to know the person running the hospital, midnight, happened to know his phone number, called him up and said, I promise you I will cover all the bills if they don't cover this, but I need to be able to check my daughter in, and he was able to do that. But most people aren't able to make that call. And so that's something we banned insurance companies from doing in the state of Illinois, and I'm very proud of that. For rural Illinoisans and those who live far away from the care that they need, we're requiring reimbursement for travel costs. And we're demanding corporate accountability by banning insurance companies from including executive bonuses in their medical loss ratios. That means more of your patient dollars will go to your care rather than lining the pockets of insurance company CEOs and senior executives. We're putting affordability for working families at the top of our agenda, and that includes lowering the cost of prescription drugs. Many Illinoisans of all ages and backgrounds rely on medications to survive, and yet drug costs continue to go up. Among the big drivers of that are pharmacy benefit managers, or PBMs. PBMs are middlemen who extract profit from patients through opaque and often predatory tactics. Not only do these unfair practices drive up healthcare costs for Illinois families, but they're also putting local and independent pharmacies out of business. So we took decisive action through the Bipartisan Prescription Drug Affordability Act. The most common ways that PBMs game the system to profit at the expense of Illinois families and employers is by steering consumers to pharmacies in which the PBMs have a financial interest, unfairly inflating medication costs, and arbitrarily classifying prescriptions as specialty drugs to charge customers more. We're putting a stop to all of that with this bill. We're going even further by offering direct support to small independent pharmacies, fixtures of the main streets across our state who are being boxed out by PBMs. And with the help of Attorney General Raoul and DOI Director Gillespie, we're going to demand transparency and accountability from PBMs. Let me be clear, no company operating in the state of Illinois should make a dime by deceiving and exploiting patients or small businesses. We're seeing to that today by signing this Prescription Drug Affordability Act. Caring for our sick and vulnerable is one of our foremost obligations, not just as people who serve you in government, but all of us just as people. We ought to believe in that, in protecting our fellow Illinoisans. Today is an opportunity to meet the obligation that I'm outlining with real action, lowering costs for families while providing them with transformational relief. I'm very, very proud to be doing that with all of you, with the leaders that are behind me today, and I look forward to building on that work in the years ahead. With that, I'm happy to hand this podium over to truly the best Attorney General in the entire United States and a fighter for Illinois families, our great Attorney General, Kwame Raoul.
Thank you, Governor, and I'm sincerely so happy that you're running it back because you've worked hard to lower costs overall for Illinoisans, and particularly in the healthcare space, where Illinois has led and continues to lead with this bill. In particular, in this time when the federal government is stepping back with regards to the most vulnerable Americans, which will impact us here in Illinois and some of the most vulnerable areas of our state. It's good that our governor is stepping up where the federal government is stepping away heartlessly. Director Gillespie, you know, it's okay, once a senator, always a senator, and I'm glad to be here with Senator Fowler, who always welcomes me to Southern Illinois, and a man who I've always known as the leader of healthcare affordability in the Senate for the over a decade that I served side to side with them, your own Dave Kaler. And I'm always glad to be welcomed here by my little sister, I like to call her Jahan Gordon Booth, and I appreciate the leadership of Ryan Spain and Representative Manley. Your leadership on this issue should be commended. House Bill 1697, or the Prescription Drug Affordability Act, is truly a breakthrough in the ongoing efforts of holding pharmacy benefit managers accountable in Illinois by reforming regulation, transparency, and funding of pharmacy benefit managers and prescription drug access in Illinois. PBMs were originally intended to reduce out-of-pockets costs for patients. However, according to the FDC, prescription drugs represent a large and growing amount of healthcare spending across the country. This is because PBMs have been largely unregulated for decades, driving up their own profits at the expense of patients, which is why I've advocated for reforms throughout my tenure as Attorney General. And I was so glad to hear when the governor did announce in the state address that we were going to be advancing reforms in the legislature. And when the governor says it, it happens. Since 2019, our office has recovered over $100 million back to Illinois with groundbreaking settlements with powerhouse PBMs like CVS and Centene for their deceptive practices and control of the pharmaceutical market. Further, the state of Illinois is currently a plaintiff in the insulin pricing multi-district litigation pending in New Jersey, in which the defendants include 3 large PBMs, Express Scripts, CVS Health, and OptumRx. We have worked on multiple briefs, letters, and litigation with attorney generals on a bipartisan basis to regulate the prescription drug market. In fact, just in recent months, we've worked closely with fellow attorneys general in urging Congress to hold these PBMs accountable through legislation similar to what we're initiating here today. In April, my office joined a bipartisan coalition that sent a letter to congressional leadership urging them to prohibit PBMs or their parent companies from owning or operating pharmacies. We called out the top 6 PBMs in the country that operate affiliated pharmacies that contract with or have power over their own pharmacy corporate competition. The PBMs use their intermediary role to exert power in ways that harm independent pharmacies, forcing those small businesses to accept confusing, unfair, and harmful contracts. This power has created an outside share of the market, leaving patients with fewer choices while spending more money. The power of PBMs must be effectively controlled. And now, thanks to Governor Pritzker signing House Bill 1697, Illinois has taken action towards exerting such effective control over PBMs. I'm disappointed in our Supreme Court, and you all may find me saying that quite frequently. That may sound like a broken record. Likewise, I'm disappointed in the federal government for not stepping up to make certain that in one of the areas where there's bipartisan agreement that would lead to reducing costs for all Americans, our federal government and our court has stepped away from the fight. But we here in Illinois are not stepping away, and we're going to use all the tools in our toolbox, including this new one, and we're going to continue to use our Consumer Fraud and Deceptive Practices Act to hold these PBMs accountable. We're not going away. With that, I'd like to pass it on to my longtime colleague. I said I was going to borrow his cane, but your leader, Dave Kaler.
I scheduled knee surgery right after the session this spring, so June 4th, yes, I had a complete knee replacement, so forgive me if I hobble around a bit. But this is an important day, and it didn't just happen overnight. You know, this story has been going on for quite a few years, and let me take you back a few years ago when Andy Menard was then a senator, and Majority Leader Greg Harris started work on a pharmacy bill. And we've passed some things along the way. We've not passed some things along the way, have filed some bills along the way. But this year, I can't tell you how exciting it was when Governor Pritzker gave his State of the State address and highlighted as one of his top priorities that we're going to finally deal with the PBM issue. And that's what it takes. That's the kind of leadership it takes. And that makes the difference. And this truly was a bipartisan bill. And I want to thank my colleague in the Senate, Dale Fowler, for helping me, in this struggle. Because we had only one negative vote in the Senate, one negative vote in the House, and that shows you that health care is a bipartisan issue. Health care is a bipartisan issue, and we need to treat it as such. So I'm very happy that we've had this day come. We're kind of at the end of the beginning because we still have work to do. We know we still have work to do, but this is a result of a lot of effort, and I want to thank Representative Natalie Manley for being a partner in this. We had a lot of Zoom meetings, in-person meetings. You don't want to watch the legislative process because it is like sausage making, but when you get to this point, it all is worthwhile. I just want to shout out to my own local pharmacist, Mike Meisinger from Alwyn Pharmacy. Small pharmacies matter. Small pharmacies matter. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to my partner in this, Representative Natalie Manley.
I'm not supposed to touch the microphone. Good afternoon. Can you all hear me? Good afternoon, and thank you. I'm too scared. How's that? That's better. I broke the rules. That's nothing new. I'm honored, so honored to be in this room and stand here with our governor, Governor Pritzker, today as we take a major step forward in protecting Illinois patients and pharmacies. This bill has been a long time coming and is the result of tireless advocacy from patients, pharmacists, and community leaders. PBMs, pharmacy benefit managers, were created to manage drug costs, but over time their practices have lacked transparency and accountability. Small independent pharmacies have struggled under opaque reimbursement practices, much like in my hometown, CodaCare Pharmacy. We've been talking about this for years. And most importantly, patients have been left in the dark paying more with fewer choices and delayed access to medications. The bill brings real, meaningful reform to how PBMs operate here in Illinois. It requires PBMs to be more transparent in their pricing and reimbursements. It bans certain unfair practices like spread pricing and clawbacks. It gives the Department of Insurance greater oversight to ensure PBMs play by the rules. This legislation puts patients first, ensuring they can access the medications they need and when they need them. It also supports our independent pharmacies, which are lifelines in so many Illinois communities. We were on our way down, my chief of staff and I, and we were traveling through the many miles of cornfields between Joliet and Peoria. And she said to me, where's the pharmacies? I said, exactly. And we're about to do something to minimize and halt the pharmacy deserts that are becoming too commonplace here in the state of Illinois. Okay. I want to thank Governor Pritzker, and I get choked up about this, but I've been in this fight with him for a long time, not just with PBMs, but through the whole COVID crisis. And when people ask about leadership, I said, look at J.B. Pritzker. Please. He's gotten us through an awful lot, and he's not done yet. Thank God. I want to thank my colleagues in the General Assembly for the bipartisan support, especially Leader Ryan Spain, who was very, very helpful. Next time somebody tells you Democrats and Republicans don't get along, they're not telling you the truth. I have a great deal of respect for him. We don't agree on everything, but neither does my husband and I. And so we could get married someday. Poor Ryan. And to my pharmacists, I feel like you're all family. Gary, I talk about that story you tell all the time about how your patients, the people, will call you in the middle of the night, 2 in the morning, my daughter has a fever. You'll go into the pharmacy, get the prescription, and then deliver it to them. We can't live without people like you. So thank you. And the community members who shared their stories, this victory belongs to you. It's all about you. Thank you for your advocacy. And this is just one step, but it's a critical one. Illinois is leading the way in standing up for fairness, transparency, and health care access. I look forward to continuing this work alongside Brian, my future husband, and to ensuring our healthcare system truly serves all the people here in Illinois. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce Leader Dave Fowler.
Thank you. Can I adjust it too? Can I cheat too? Thank you, Leader Manley. It's what a great day in Illinois. Yeah. You know, and I also want to say thank you to some kudos back to my colleagues, Leader Kaler. I know for sure he's glad to see this day come because probably at least the last 6 weeks, maybe even longer of session, there wasn't a single day that I wasn't on the other side of the aisle asking for updates, right? And you know, isn't that truly what legislation is all about? Everybody working together in a bipartisan manner to get things done for everyone in the state of Illinois. But today is a legislative milestone. It's a victory for fairness, for access, and for the communities too often left behind. With the signing of House Bill 1697, we are not just putting ink on paper, we are drawing a bold line in the sand and saying, no more. No more will unchecked pharmacy benefit managers operate in the shadows, draining the life from our local pharmacies and driving up the cost of care for patients. No more will family-owned pharmacies, those trusted pillars of care, be squeezed to the point of extinction by system rigged against them. And no more will the needs of patients be pushed aside for the profits of middlemen. HB 1697 is now the law in Illinois. And with it, we are ushering in the most meaningful PBM reform this state has ever seen. Let me be clear about this law and what it does. It ends spread pricing, predatory practice that allowed PBMs to pocket the difference between what they charge and what they pay. It stops PBMs from steering patients away from their trusted pharmacies to corporate-owned chains. And it ensures that rebates go where they belong, to patients and to the plans that serve them, not to hidden profiteers. But beyond the policy, this moment is about people. It's about pharmacies like Rogan's Family Pharmacy in beautiful Pulaski, Illinois. Mr. Rogan is here with us today from Pulaski, Illinois. This legislation is so important that he took the time to drive this 5.5 hours to be here just for this monumental moment. Thank you, sir. Rogan's Family Pharmacy is a beacon of service in one of the most economically challenged areas in the state of Illinois. They aren't just a business, they are a lifeline. They know their patients by name. They check in on their elders. They deliver medications when no one else will. They've been in the forefront for all of this fight from the very beginning, not just for their own survival, but for every independent family-owned pharmacy in the state of Illinois. Rogan's has made it clear, without strong PBM reform, they would be forced to close their doors. But today, because of House Bill 1697, they have hope. And so do many, many others like them. Because make no mistake, the stakes are high. In 2024 alone, more than 85 independent pharmacies in Illinois shut their doors. And 74 out of the 102 counties are now considered pharmacy deserts. That means nearly 3/4 of our state's counties lack adequate access to local pharmacies. This is not just a crisis of convenience, it's a crisis of care, and it cannot continue. I'm deeply proud to have served as chief co-sponsor of this legislation, and I'm even more proud that today, standing shoulder to shoulder with my colleagues, with the patients, with the pharmacists and advocates, we are delivering on a promise. Thank you, Governor. Thank you for protecting our community and the care that they have and receive and deserve, to restore transparency, and to put people before profits. To every pharmacy who spoke out, to every patient who couldn't afford another price hike, to every legislator who stood up to powerful interest and said enough was enough, thank you. You made this law possible. And today we celebrate not just this legislative win, but a fight for what is right. The passage of House Bill 1697 marks the beginning of a new era, one where Illinois leads the way in protecting healthcare access and defending those who serve on the front lines of care. We are not alone, but today we move forward with momentum, with conviction, and with the voices of our communities behind us and that stand with us. Let's continue the fight for fairness, for access, and for every hometown pharmacy that refuses, like Rogan's, that refuses to give up. Thank you all very much. And now it's my pleasure to introduce my colleague in the House of Representatives, Leader Ryan Spain.
Well, good afternoon. I'm Ryan Spain, proud to be state representative of the 73rd District. I live here in Peoria and work in this building. So to all of you visiting our great community, welcome to Peoria. You've heard a lot today. You've heard about bipartisan collaboration, and we all agree that's a good thing. But you had no idea there could be so much bipartisan collaboration that legislative marriages and proposals develop right before your eyes. So you're witnessing a great legislative marriage, and I think Leader Manley and I will both have to go back and inform our spouses of some pending divorces that evidently are coming as well. But this is truly a great day to celebrate something that is a bipartisan collaboration that we wish to see much more of. Bipartisan collaboration is truly a great thing. And in terms of this legislation, we have achieved so much more by working together than what we ever thought was possible. So many of you have contributed to the success of this legislation. As I see Garth Reynolds on behalf of the Illinois pharmacists. I see Rob Carr on behalf of the Illinois retail merchants. Becky Burns is here, who advised us on specialty pharmacy. Mike Meinzinger, I have to say, thank you so much. Everyone, every single legislator has a pharmacist that has been talking about this issue to each of us for so many years. And maybe to all the pharmacists, if you would just raise your hand so we can thank and acknowledge all of you for your advocacy. This legislation is about access and it is about cost. And we are making huge improvements on both of those fronts, ensuring access to pharmacies throughout the state of Illinois, ensuring that you can keep your doors open, continuing to serve your communities as the critical partner that you are. And we will do that, and not only, we will lower the cost curve of prescription drugs, something that has long been a national objective. Illinois will lead the way to reduce the price of prescription drugs, thanks to all of you. So congratulations. We appreciate your advocacy. This is a great celebration. It's a great day. Marriages have been made, and then also in our legislation, and everyone should have a work spouse, by the way. Maybe we all do. And then we have other members of our family as well. And there's no more treasured member of my family, especially here in Peoria, than my legislative sister, my great friend, someone who you wouldn't be surprised to learn works together on behalf of this community in the state of Illinois in a consistent and constant basis, and that is my friend, Leader Jahan Gordon Booth.
I won't touch the mic. When you come at the end, you don't want to necessarily repeat things that have already been said, but I think it's critical, particularly in a time like this. Bipartisanship still plays in Peoria. And it also plays in the state of Illinois. What I know about PBMs, frankly, I'd be remiss if I did not acknowledge the work of Mike Meisinger from Alwyn's Pharmacy. For the last 4, maybe 5 years, I have been on an email chain that he's very active on, that he has been just relentless about this issue. And I have, as a legislative partner, the best partner ever in Senator Dave Kaler. And I know, listen, ladies and gentlemen, everybody, every legislator doesn't know everything about every issue, but when you're blessed to work with a partner, you know the issues that they lock in on, that they are the experts at, you lean on them. And I saw the way that Senator Kaler was locked in on this issue for many years. And I just want to say thank you for always being someone who we could lean on in this community to know that you are leading us down the right path. I'd like to, yes. As always, I want to acknowledge Governor Pritzker and AG Raul for being here in our beautiful city on this very warm 1st of July. Thank you for always showing support and for being here. Thank you to my colleagues from around the state for being in our wonderful city. Over the past few years, I have listened to Senator Kaler and Leader Manley talk about this issue of PBMs. And what was very clear to me, you know, we're watching the political world around us. Some of the things we agree with, some of the things we don't necessarily agree with. But I have this idea in my head. There are people, regardless of what side of the aisle that you sit on, in my head, I've put them all in a little bucket. And I like to call myself the chairman of the MIMS caucus. MIMS means make it make sense. And all the folks that you see elected here today, they are all a part of the Make It Make Sense caucus. And they took that sort of approach, right? Does this make sense? Not does my party agree with this, is this good politics, but does this make sense for the people? And that to me was the guiding, the North Star, so to speak, in terms of the work that Senator Kaler and Representative Manley, the way by which they led to work towards greater transparency, greater accountability, and most importantly, more affordability. As the mother of a medically expensive child, I know how difficult it is when trying to balance all of the responsibilities of life, because life seems to be getting a little bit more expensive every single month, right? And when you have to make sure that you can afford prescription drugs to be able to sustain life, though that isn't one of those areas that you can trim the fat on. A lot of other things become non-essential. Prescription drugs simply aren't essential. And so the things that we had control over that give us the ability to create more affordability for our constituents, that is exactly why we go to Springfield. That is exactly why we are entrusted to lead our communities. It is for moments just like this. And so I could not be more proud to stand here with my colleagues to bring more patient and provider affordability, the fact that policymakers were brought to the table to be able to put forth a solution that across the entire state of Illinois, we are going to see more relief on behalf of our constituents. They succeeded not on behalf of their caucus, not on behalf of their community, but for the 13 million people living in the state of Illinois. Senator Kaler and Representative Manley succeeded on behalf of everyone in this state. And I'll wrap by saying this bill is yet another clear example of the big things that we can accomplish when we can work together. And again, I look forward to Governor Pritzker's signature on this actually big, beautiful bill, and it becoming the law of the land in the state of Illinois. And I'm going to bring to the podium someone who I have seen for a lot of mornings at 7 a.m., someone who used to lead the Medicaid work group, which all of us that are legislators up here, we all are part of that Medicaid work group. Someone who led that like in a very, cracked a real tight whip. And I know that she is still cracking that same whip on behalf of the citizens of this state for the Department of Insurance, none other than Director Gillespie.
Thank you all. You've heard many people say what a groundbreaking, nation-leading piece of legislation this is. And I'm going to provide you proof of that. I was at a meeting of the National Association of Insurance Commissioners with all my colleagues from the other 49 states and the territories. I had so many people coming up to me asking me about this bill and wanting to use it as a model for legislation in their states. And So thank you all for making me look good in front of my colleagues. This bill is groundbreaking in many different ways, but the two pieces that got the most attention from my colleagues and that I think really make the difference are the investment in our independent and small pharmacies that this bill makes to ensure that they continue to serve their communities, and the specified deep level of transparency required under this legislation. Because in this era of AI and big data, the key to being able to truly regulate companies is through data. That's the next generation of regulation. And the ability that this is going to give us to do that is huge. And when you have a governor who knows a thing or two about incubators and innovation, you're able to do this kind of legislation. So I really thank you, Governor, and thank you to the members of the General Assembly here for supporting this bill. In this era of federal ineffectiveness at many levels in the federal government, of performative hearings and vote-a-ramas, the state is where the true work is getting done. And in Illinois, we take that seriously, and we are here to get the work done for the people of Illinois. While I miss my colleagues in the General Assembly, sometimes, I could not be prouder to be part of Governor Pritzker's administration in getting this kind of work done. And Governor, I am so honored to ask you to come and sign this wonderful piece of legislation.
All right, I'm going to take a few questions from members of the media, and then we can go back out in the heat. So happy to take any questions. Brendan.
Hi, Governor. How you doing?
How are you?
So a few hours ago, the Senate Republicans in Washington passed their version of the One Big Beautiful Bill. Just, I'll get your overall reaction, but then also, we are in a hospital. Speak a little bit to the impact that those provisions could have, especially the, reining in the provider tax and some of the work requirements could have on the healthcare infrastructure in Illinois.
Yep. Let's start with the impact on individuals across the state of Illinois. Hundreds of thousands of people are going to lose their health care if this gets signed into law. Hundreds of thousands of people in the state of Illinois and millions of people across the United States. This is shameful, if you ask me. And it's going to be very hard to recover. The state of Illinois can't cover the cost. No state in the country can cover the cost of reinstating that health insurance that is today paid for mostly by the federal government, partially by state government. In addition, hundreds of thousands take a moment to contemplate that. Hospitals are at risk significantly. This hospital will survive, but it will be harmed. And we have critical access hospitals across central and southern Illinois that I would be surprised if we don't see closures of hospitals. We don't have enough health care as it is. Closures of hospitals. And in Chicago, where there are safety net hospitals, I would not be at all surprised to see several hospitals close. Again, this is senseless, what's happening in Washington in this big, ugly bill. So I am prayerful, I guess, that something will intervene, but I have to admit, pessimistic about Washington, D.C. and their ability to do the right thing.
Governor, you
Yes.
recently announced today that Christian Mitchell will be your running mate as Lieutenant Governor. Why is Christian Mitchell ready to step in as governor if required?
Well, let me start by saying that we have a great Lieutenant Governor right now, and she's going to continue to serve as Lieutenant Governor, Juliana Stratton, for another 18 months. And she's been really a terrific partner, and important to me to have somebody who understands government and who has a heart for the people of Illinois wherever they live and whatever party they belong to. And Christian Mitchell has demonstrated, and I've worked with him since he was a state representative, since I was just a candidate for governor, and then, of course, he became my deputy governor. He also has worked at the University of Chicago as their community liaison. He is a lieutenant in the National Guard, Air National Guard, I might add. And he is somebody that I have grown to trust. I've seen him usher enormous legislation through the legislature, working with legislators to pass the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, to pass the infrastructure bill, $45 billion capital bill for the state. So he's a guy who knows how to get big things done. I've worked with him to get it done, and I'm excited for the people of Illinois to get to know him and also for him to become one of their leaders.
How many candidates did you consider, and when did you arrive at a final decision?
Oh gosh, I mean, there are a number of qualified people that I considered, and I don't know if I could name the number, but I can say that we have, I said earlier in my remarks, that we have a lot of really highly qualified people in government today in Illinois. I know that people are down on government in general, but I can tell you I've worked with some really spectacular, you're seeing some here. And so it's if you want to pick somebody who has real government experience, there are a number of people to choose from. There are people outside of government who are highly experienced as managers, as people who can lead. And so I considered people both inside and outside government.
And when did you make your decision?
You know, it's one of these things. When did I make the decision? I made the decision as soon as I could. But, you know, you have to kind of evolve as you're looking at candidates and contemplating it into, I think it wasn't an easy choice because there really are some great people to choose from. But I guess the final decision was made, you know, maybe, more than a week ago. But I say final, there were lots of things to do. You know, somebody who's choosing to run as a candidate, he can't continue, for example, working at the University of Chicago while he's a candidate. And so that's one of those things that, you know, you've got to give a person time to work out. So just to give you a sense for it, I mean, but it wasn't too terribly long ago.
Governor,
Yeah.
there's been talk that obviously this PBM issue, we're going to have to continue to look at it. Kind of what do you see as potential further steps to regulate this industry? And could Illinois follow a state like Arkansas where it bans PBMs from operating or owning pharmacies?
We're not currently talking about that. I mean, I think that because of the transparency and accountability that's built into this bill, we believe that they can be regulated but don't have to be banned. And again, the original purpose of PBMs was to lower the cost of pharmaceuticals. And so we think they can get back to holding that role. But we needed to pass a bill like this in order to rein it in and make sure that they were doing the right thing.
Just to go back to the bill in Washington, another provision talks about or affects solar and wind tax
Yes.
credits. I believe the excise tax that was talked about was not included in the final bill, but it does phase out some of the tax credits that were in the Inflation Reduction Act. How concerned are you about that impeding Illinois' ability to meet its very ambitious climate goals by 2050?
Well, there's no question but that the bill that is, again, going through Congress is going to be bad for energy production, period, in this country. It's bad for energy production. It's also bad for the climate. It's bad for clean energy. What else need I say? I mean, it's going to create job loss, more so, I think, in other states than in ours, but we'll see thousands of people lose their jobs in Illinois as a result of what they're passing. And that's just in the energy space, I might add. So I'm concerned about our ability to meet the goals that I think many of us have for the country, let alone for the state of Illinois. But I am also hopeful that there will be change that comes about sooner rather than later. I think about the 26 elections. I think about the 28 elections. And the need to restore sanity to our energy policies. Look, I want more energy. We've got to double and triple the amount of electricity that we're producing across the country and here in Illinois. We happen to be a state that produces more electricity than we use, and so we export electricity to other states on a net basis. And but the energy usage and need based on the growth of industry is going to diminish our ability to produce enough electricity at some point. If you project forward past 2030, if we don't make a lot of effort now to produce new electricity, if we don't have new generation that comes online and new transmission lines, we're not going to be able to meet the needs of industry, and we're going to see higher prices for consumers. We already see higher prices. That, by the way, is in part has come about because of the organization of PJM and MISO and their inability to bring on all of the projects that have actually already been built but need to be plugged in, interconnected into our grid. And they've fallen way behind. Now add to that what the President and the Congress are doing Well, this bill isn't aimed at Medicaid negotiating prescription drug prices. But I can say that, I mean, the impact is enormous. I'm not sure I can overstate what's going to happen. And the ability of the state to step in and try to mitigate the damage is somewhat limited, although we have the ability to do certain things and may have to in special session, or we may have to in veto session. It's a little hard to tell. Some of the provisions in this terrible bill in Washington, D.C. don't go into effect until next year. And so we'll have to evaluate what changes we have to make in order to deal with it. I'm not sure if I answered your question. Yeah, okay. Good, yeah. Thank you, everyone.